Hi, my name is Michael Dell. I'm a Ganawage Rono living with special needs. When I was interviewed, I had an idea for a show for people from Ganawage living with disabilities. Today is the start of that show, Walk in My World. Often, people with disabilities lead sheltered lives, and their interactions are limited to caregivers and family members. I hope this show will bring you awareness of these people, their families, their lives, and their dreams for the future. Welcome back to another episode of Walk in My World. If you remember last time, if you've seen the episode of previously of Walk in My World, we featured an expert to discuss FASD. This time we are featuring Don Lazar from Cat Memorial Hospital Center, and we're going to discuss sex and disability. Welcome, Don, and thank you for appearing on Walk in My World.
Thanks, Mike. I'm happy to be here, and good day to everyone.
I guess I want to start by telling the community that we're just going to have a general chat about sex and disability, because for people that have special needs, they have the same wants and desires as people out there, but because of disability, they may have certain limitations that prevent them from having it, and this is what we're here. This is what we're here to discuss today. So, Don, maybe you could begin with just a brief overview of what it is we're here to discuss today.
Okay. Again, I'd like to set forward or to be forthcoming and say that I'm not an expert in this area, but I do have some knowledge, and I'm willing to share the knowledge that I have. Okay, when we talk about sex, it's not always just about the act of sex, but sexuality. And sexuality does encompass a lot of things. Every person is a sexual being, whether we admit it or not. And it's ever changing, meaning that, from the time that we're born to the time that we're adults, our sexuality comes into play in that, first off, how do we feel about being a boy or being a girl? Which role do we communicate with or feel comfortable with? As well, as you hit puberty and our bodies are changing, a lot of the times people struggle with, their body image, their self-esteem, their role as a sexual being, either a male, a female, a woman, a man. And again, it is ever changing. When we talk about disabilities, again, there are many different types of disabilities. There's physical disabilities, there are intellectual disabilities, there are learning disabilities. And I think that, exploring sexuality for any person is important, because everybody has, I guess what you'll say, general needs. And most of the time people have a need to belong, to fit in, to feel loved. And, everybody has needs to express these individual things. And again, when Michael first asked me to come and discuss this topic, I was a bit hesitant because it is contentious. Meaning that some people are comfortable talking about sex and sexuality, and some people are not comfortable talking about sex and sexuality. But to me, I think that, the way that I view sex and sexuality is that with children and with everybody, most people have a fear that if you talk about sex or sexuality, that you're encouraging people to go out and act that way. However, I believe that, from the time that children are infants and growing up, you should always be having open discussions about it. And I'm going to tell a story of my first experience with a disability and sexuality. I was in the service. I was a medic in the U.S. Army, and I was stationed in Hawaii. I was asked to go to it was not a day camp, it was a sleepover camp. It was a 1-week camp for people with different disabilities, both physical and developmental disabilities. And we were asked to shadow people one-on-one. And I remember there was one young man in particular. He was probably about 17, 18 years old, and he had Down syndrome. And he thought that he was a big fan of Knight Rider with Michael Knight, I think it is, and the car Kit. But he was a big fan of him, and he'd say, "Oh, call me Michael," and he'd talk about Kit, the car. And we were on the beach in Hawaii, and it was a beautiful, beautiful beach, and we had one-on-one shadows, but the person that was his shadow was a male, and he had to take a bathroom break. So he says, "Oh, can you keep an eye on him for a minute?" And I'm obliged, so I'm watching him, and here come along 2 tourist girls walking on the beach in their bikinis, and this man, he got excited and he chased after these girls, and he grabbed onto this girl. He had a grip on her with his arms and his legs, and it was because he was feeling something, but he didn't know what to do with them feelings. Needless to say, the poor tourist was so traumatized, and I am watching this guy. Of course, I felt bad, and I'm apologizing profusely to these tourists. And in hindsight, I look back and I think that, sometimes you just have to explain to people what's appropriate, what's inappropriate, and, to discuss feelings. And in hindsight, I think, if there was more support for this gentleman before, that he probably wouldn't have acted out in that way. But, sometimes it takes a crisis like that for us to realize, to step back and to say, is there something that we could have done differently or something that we could have changed? And again, a lot of things are taboo, but to me, I feel it's important, especially with young people, that they have information and the knowledge and the skills and the ability to act on things. A lot of the times children and teens even are learning, having their friends or their older brothers and sisters being their experts or the go-to person on issues of sex and sexuality. And again, on the internet, there's a lot of websites, and a lot of them can put anything that they want onto these websites. So again, it's always good to get good information, up-to-date information, and accurate information.
For me, I get, not in the community, but from the outside, I always get the question, do I want to get married? Do I want to have kids? I'm going to say, for me, I don't know. Because I'm assessing my life as each year goes by. For the interim, because of my choice and not really my physical needs, I wouldn't say that it wouldn't be a possibility, but not for right now, because that's something that I would have to really look at seriously if I wanted to commit to a long-term relationship with somebody. Because when you're looking at disability, and if you go with a partner that's not disabled, that partner is accepting you for you, and plus she's accepting you for your disability. So it takes, she's playing like 2 roles. So she has, it's a lot to encompass. At least I think so anyway. So for me, if I was to do something like that, I would have to really consider it. For the interim, it's not going to happen in the short-term future, maybe somewhere down the road. But I brought Don here to just give a general knowledge to people that w- maybe want to know about this and they're too shy to call the hospital or and say, "Can I come in and get information?" So that's why Don was brought here today, and I'm really grateful because as Don said, she's not the expert, and nobody is when it comes to a special topic like this. So, you know, I hope you would take this from the show and then choose responsibly what you want to do with it. So, Don, is there any kind of I don't know, is there some kind of like can they go and get if they want to try sex out and they're they're not able to because of physical limitations. Is there some place where they can go to get the equipment to help them achieve this?
Well, as I said, there are a lot of websites out there. One reputed website that I like is called Sexuality and You with the letter U on it. And there are there's a lot of good information on this website site in particular. Again, you know, when we talk about sexuality and disabilities, you know, there are basically two types of disabilities. There can be either be a physical disability, meaning that a person can have like a heart condition or epilepsy or have a missing body part, but it's physical. And, you know, there are different things that people can do, such as have pillows or, you know, different devices that are available to assist. And, you know, there's, you know, so much information out there. Again, and then there's also an intellectual disability. And to me, I think that this becomes more of a concern. And I think that with people who have intellectual disabilities, it is more important to educate people on sexuality, because people with intellectual disabilities, statistics show that they are more likely to be sexually abused. Because one, they have a different way of processing information, and there's a lot of the times less abstract thinking. And people with intellectual disabilities are more vulnerable because they're always in a dependent role, meaning that they're dependent on others to tell them when to wash up, when to eat, and they're just used to they're used to taking orders. So again, that puts them in not a good spot, that they are more vulnerable to sexual abuse. And I think, you know, it's important to start with all children when they are young to, you know, and usually it starts with, you know, feelings. And people have different kind of feelings, good feelings, bad feelings, happy, sad, angry, upset, elated, scared, shocked. So again, it's important to discuss feelings and how people feel. And then after that, we usually do progress into touches, that there's good touches and bad touches. An example of good touches like a kiss, a hug, a caress. And then there's also bad touches, you know, punches and pinches and pushes and shoves. And, you know, it's important to differentiate between good touches and bad touches, touches that are wanted, touches that are unwanted. And also, you know, the third part, and I find that this is equally important, is to let people know that they're in charge, that they have, you know, they can accept or refuse a touch, and if something is wrong or doesn't seem right, that they should report it. And again, you know, the whole sexuality discussion is controversial. And again, most of the things that we learn have influences. There's cultural influences, there's religious influences, there's family influences. Some people are just uncomfortable talking about sex and sexuality at all.
I hope I hope that I'm pretty hopeful that in Ganawage, people that take care of disabled people are the like, that they don't take advantage of them in the wrong way. But I guess to say, like if they're going to schools in town, and one of those people with special needs got taken advantage of in the wrong way, is there some way, being that you're the school nurse or the teacher, would know that there was that kind of problem at home? Uh, would the kid be exhibiting special behaviors of not paying attention in class? It's just a question I have.
And I wish I had the answer for that, Michael, but I don't. I mean, we are taught as healthcare professionals to watch out for child abuse, and that there are some signs or symptoms that people may exhibit, or ways that people will act that will kind of, put up a red flag to make us suspect that there's something going on. But again, to my knowledge, I don't think that there's,
Okay, well we just hope that that doesn't happen around here, but we're just curious. So like if somebody's watching this episode of Walking My World and they want more information, like they could call you at the hospital, and could they set up, if it's a disabled client that wants more information than just pamphlets, could they come to the hospital and set up with their doctor or set up with a healthcare professional to say, I want the, like, tips, like the where to buy the equipment and stuff like that?
well, to say, I personally don't know of any particular places, but I mean, in my work experience, I have encountered different things. I know I also worked in the States, in Pennsylvania, as a nursing assistant, and at the time there was an elderly lady who had muscular dystrophy, and she did on a regular basis call in a male to come and pleasure her. And again, that's an individual choice. Not everybody is in agreement with it. Some people think that it's wrong, but to me, everybody is an individual, and everybody makes their own choices in life. And I can't promote it or negate it. It was her choice. And I have also read articles where they say that people with disabilities are among the best clients of people with in the sex trade industry. And again, because they're not less likely to abuse them. But again, it's individual. What one thing isn't right for everybody, and everybody's your sexuality is made up of your experiences, your hopes for the future, your dreams for the future, and not everybody is the same. So you can't say what's right for one is right for another.
Can you just I know when you came, we talked about doing this. Can you just show maybe after the good feelings and the bad feelings, so people can see it on TV? Like you have it in there in the binder. Like you were showing me all those.
Well, I have different things that I use for different people, because again, you always want to make sure that the teaching that you're doing is age appropriate. Yeah. I do education in the elementary schools, and again, I told you that we start with feelings. So a lot of the times young children can't read, and people with intellectual disabilities also may not be able to read. So we use things like this, this is a good feeling, and it's always best to engage people. Why do you think that this is a good feeling? What tells you that it's a good feeling? He's smiling, he's happy. And then we have bad feelings where somebody is, why do you, to get people engaged. And again, I'm hopefully not putting my values on people, but to let people experience, for themselves what it is, and to be active participants in the learning. And this one here is somebody who's upset. And somebody who, again, who's upset, and you can tell because of the tear. And this one can be either somebody who's shocked or surprised. And this one here can be somebody who is embarrassed. So we use a lot of pictures, again, and then we go into feelings, good feelings. This one is a good feeling, someone who's being hugged by their mom. And a bad feeling where somebody is getting hurt. And a good feeling, even though the dog may be dirty or smelly, but it's still a good feeling. And a bad feeling, someone who's being tickled and the child is pushing the person away, but they're not stopping. So we talk about good feelings and bad feelings. And, well, these are bad feelings. And to again, state that the person is in control, that they're in charge. And if someone asks you to take your clothes off or do something that you feel uncomfortable, we give them the tools to say no, get away from that person, and tell an adult that you trust. If you're asked to do anything that makes you feel strange, if it doesn't feel good, you get away from that person and you tell a trusted person. And, oops, it's upside down. That if you're asked to touch or look at someone else's private parts, say no. But I think that, if children or people with disabilities aren't told these things, they don't know how to react or act when they do encounter these situations. And I think, that it's important to talk about things like this as a way of preventing abuse. And again, we also talk about private parts and public parts. So with a boy or a male, anything that is underneath their underwear or their bathing suit is considered private parts. And the same for a girl. Anything that's underneath your bathing suit or your private part or your underwear is considered private parts. And it's important to talk about private and public. And public again means for everybody, and private means that for a few or selected few. The other thing too is that there are a lot of stereotypes about people with disabilities, and some of them are that they're asexual, that they don't need to experience or talk about sex, or that people with disabilities are only attracted to other people with disabilities, which again is a myth. But and a lot of people think that because a person has a disability that they're not like, they look at them as in a negative light anyway. But it's important to realize that everybody has an innate feelings, and everybody has, again, the desires to be loved, to be touched, to be held, to have loving relationships. And, it is purely individual. Again, some parents, don't like to talk about sex or are uncomfortable or embarrassed about talking about sex, and that's normal. I think that throughout history, sex and sexuality have been taboo subjects. That we don't talk about that, and but to me, I'd prefer to be open and honest. And another story that I have is with my son, and he wouldn't be happy if he hears me talking about this, but I'm going to share anyway. When he was in nursery or kindergarten, he came home and he's telling me, "Oh, Mom, you have to put a ring on your penis before you have sex." And I'm wondering, what is he trying to tell me? And I'm like, "No, you have to put a ring on your finger before you have sex. You have to be married before you have sex." And he'd say, "No, you have to put a ring on your penis before you have sex." And after thinking about what he's trying to say to me, I said, "Oh, okay, I know what you're talking about. You have to put a condom on your penis before having sex." And he was okay with that. So we go to my mom's house the next day, and what's the first thing he does? "Grandma, you know what? You have to put a condom on your penis before you have sex." And my mother was, who told you that? And he's like, my mom. So next time I see my mom, she's yelling at me, what are you telling your son? And I'm like, well, you know, if he's coming home with information that's wrong, I want him to have the good information. I want him to have, you know, the right information that he can make good decisions with. But again, it's highly individual, meaning, you know, and I know when I was in school that we didn't have classes on puberty and sexuality. And I remember when I first started getting my period, I really thought there was something wrong with me. I thought that I was dying. And it was all because I didn't have the knowledge. And to me, I'm for everybody having knowledge and the knowledge and the skills and the ability to handle situations when you encounter them.
So I guess all that to say, Ganawage, like Don said, she's not an expert in this area, really. She agreed to come on because I asked her to come on to just give a general picture about disability and sex. I hope that when you watch this show, you will take all the information and use it responsibly if you're disabled or non-disabled, especially if you're non-disabled. If you're already sexually active and you're happy with the way you're doing it and your partner's happy, fine. Continue to do it whatever way you think is appropriate, but be responsible. If you're a team that has intellectual disability and you're going to be experiencing them later down the road, check with your school, check with your teacher, check with your mom, check with your school nurse, so that if you're gonna experience that, they cannot tell you how to do it, when to do it, but they can sort of give you guidance along the way so that you have the right information and do it properly. Walking My World today was not set up to glorify sex or say that yes, this is wrong or this is right. We were just here to give you a general picture, but it's up to you as the special needs population of Ganawage to go and use the information properly. And if you have any questions, you can call Dawn at the hospital and she can...
I'm more than willing to answer any questions. I'm part of the community health unit and I can be reached at 638-3930, extension 295. I have voicemail. But again, you know, if you need information or you just want to talk, I am available. And again, I'm not an expert, but I'm willing to share what knowledge I do have.
And those websites that we were talking about, particularly sexualityandyou.ca, is a really reputable website. You can go there and use it. If you need some kind of information from your doctor, again, that can be taken care of at Calgary Hospital or the like. So it was all here for you today in a generalized picture, and you know, Don will handle any questions that will come in around this topic. So if you need any information around that, you can give her a call there. So I guess, Don, if you don't have anything else, this will bring a close to the end of Walking My World, unless you have something else you want to put in last minute.
Well, I just want to make one final comment. And I know that, you know, a lot of the population in general feels that if you do talk to children and adolescents about sex and sexuality, that you're encouraging them to take part in it. And the statistics show that that's not true. that the majority of the people who do get education on sex and sexuality, that they're really not having sex any sooner, but that they are making better informed decisions.
Okay, so with that, we'll bring a close to the end of Walking My World for today. If you have any comments or questions, you can email me at mike.dell@paulcom.ca. I'll be looking forward to hearing from you. Ona.
More than 14% of all Canadians have a disability. For Aboriginal First Nations people in Canada, there are 33% of people living with disabilities. People living with disabilities are subject to exclusion, poverty, and isolation. There are higher rates of depression, suicide, violence, and abuse for people with disabilities. We know that for Aboriginal people with disabilities in Canada, all of these rates and percentages are even higher. Statistics according to Independent Living Canada.
Kanya ke haga thadi adraste kayerniga hiadu zewaderodu.